Hello, lovely ladies. Namaste. Welcome to day 4 of the Awakening Shakti lives that I'm doing into this beautiful group. So, today's focus is falling in love with you. Should be a song, shouldn't it? Falling in love. It probably is a song. Now everyone's going to post the songs underneath. I can't think of one right now, but there's got to be a song called Falling in Love with You. There's got to be at least one. So when I start talking to each topic, I almost every time feel like I want to say, this is the most important topic. Everything relates to this one. But of course, like I said yesterday, they all interconnect, they all interrelate. But, and also, as I was writing the title for this one today, I was thinking, I think maybe I'll change that from falling to rising. So it's going to become rising in love with you rather than falling, because this is part of the conditioning of our society, basically is to unlove ourselves and to forget what we are. And you know, because we are love, we come from love, we return to love. Our true eternal nature is love, and as embodiments of the divine feminine principle, you know, one of the key essence qualities of the divine feminine is unconditional love. That is what we are here to embody and bring through into this earthly realm. But yeah, so our programming, our conditioning is kind of anti-love, and it's definitely anti-self-love, and it's kind of anti-knowing and seeing what we truly are, which is love. So the phrase falling in love, you know, really is a part of that, in terms of all the romantic stories and all the romantic fantasies that are part of the narrative of what love is. And that phrase, just think of what it means to fall in love. Well, no more falling, only rising. I'm going to change the title. So let's talk a little bit more about love. Everything really boils down to this, and really, you know, my job would be done if I and you and all of us woke up fully to the embodied realization that love is what we are. I wouldn't need to be sitting here making this live stream now. We would just all be living in an entirely different reality of heaven on earth, right? So everything boils down to love, and I think it's in Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Yourself. She says there at the very beginning, in her decades and decades of working with clients and groups to heal their bodies, but then also, of course, supporting people in healing all kinds of other issues in their lives, from, you know, lack of abundance, money, career issues, health issues, relationship issues. She says in the opening chapter to her book, everything boils down to an absence of self-love. And if that one understanding, that one embodiment was made for each of us, then everything else would be taken care of. Everything else. Yeah, so it's a pretty big one, both in terms of embodying the divine feminine, which is what Awakening Shakti is about, as well as each of us on our individual journeys in this matrix, and the programming and the conditioning that we have also around what relationship is about, and the expectations that we place upon others as a result of that, but also our the experiences that we've had in our formative years, once again going back to that, because unfortunately, because our ancestors have also grown up in this system, in this matrix, they could only love to the extent that they were able to with their own conditioning. And so for many of us, we might never have actually experienced true unconditional love. we might never have experienced that from our mothers and fathers, much as they loved us or said they loved us or said they loved one another. For many of us, I would say, our formative years experience might have been a more conditional love. And, you know, a lot of us were taught, conditioned and programmed, you know, you'll get this if you do that. If you perform to a certain level in your life in a particular area, then you'll be praised. If you don't, you won't be praised. You won't be noticed. You won't get the treats. You won't get the pocket money. So all of this is a conditioning to make our belief stronger that being loved is a conditional thing, and that we need to perform or be or look or do a certain way to receive the love that, of course, as a young child we crave and we need to blossom fully into our potential, right? So we grow up with this conditional love conditioning, and then that is what we put out into the world and into our relationships and onto ourselves. And so if you look at every area of your life and wherever things are flowing, wherever things are not flowing, and you just notice, you know, what's going on, it can be really useful information as to where you feel loving and accepting towards yourself and where maybe you don't. And it can be really quite deeply buried. You can say on the surface, oh yes, I love myself, but, you know, go deeper still. And also, of course, particularly in England, in Britain, it's different in other cultures. There is this thing about, you know, loving myself being selfish, loving myself being arrogant, loving myself being big-headed, which is a nonsense. All of that comes from the ego. You know, true love is without ego, and it would be ridiculous to even countenance those suggestions. And then it can also be this shadow conditioning for the feminine, in particular, of love meaning sacrifice, and love meaning overgiving, love meaning bending over backwards to please the other, to people please, to serve, to accommodate. But in fact, that is a very codependent conditioning that is not love at all. If you are called from your truest heart, when you're standing in your sovereignty and in your power, to bow down and serve your beloved, or to serve another in true selfless service, that is one thing. But if you're simply operating from this age-old conditioning of the feminine being the self-sacrificing one who gives and gives and gives until she's depleted, who, you know, gives all the best cuts of meat to the rest of the family and denies herself, who spends all her money on her children or her beloved but not on herself, that's not love. No. And it's coming from an unconscious desire to manipulate reality to win approval. So this need for approval, I can speak to that very, very personally from my own conditioning of my own life. It's been a part of me all my life, this need for external validation, because I never felt that I had that from my parents as a teenager. As a young child, I pretty much did, but as soon as I went into puberty, that validation was missing for me, and so I felt unlovable, unloved, unworthy, and spent most of my adult life then looking for that validation externally, in relationships, in sex, in achievements and accomplishments. You know, I have so many accolades and degrees and masters this and A grades in that, you know, distinction in this to my name, and still never feeling good enough, never feeling like, always feeling there was something more I had to be, and very dependent on attention from the masculine, but not of a healthy kind. So maybe you recognize some of that in yourself, maybe you don't. I just want to talk a little bit then to how this theme then interrelates with all the others, as they all do, right? So if we go to the first pillar, the first module, the first theme, which was the still voice within. Well, you know, once you've deepened into stillness meditation and really tasted the essence of stillness through a meditation practice, which is what we do in the first month and beyond, you'll come to know experientially that stillness is a taste of love. And the deeper you go into stillness, the more that love infuses your being. And of course that then relates forward into the 8th month, where we go into meeting the masculine and re-experiencing him internally. And his presence as stillness is, again, something we bring together with our feminine self, and again experience that stillness, that presence as love, which leads us into the experience of divine union in the heart. So stillness, masculine, divine union are all connected, and that is part of the journey to wholeness, to becoming. If we go to the 2nd month, if we go to archetypes, the fruits of feminine archetypes, and we explore our shadow and our light there, this is where we get the opportunity to see our shadow. And the shadow is typically, of course, the part of ourselves that we've denied and repressed because we're ashamed and embarrassed or afraid of being rejected for that which we think is too bad or too awful to show somebody else. So we hide it away, right? But actually the return to love comes from acknowledging and seeing and integrating our shadow self back into our hearts, embracing it all rather than continuing to hide or repress or feel ashamed about it. So as soon as we bring it into the light, it loses its power over us. It's only when we keep wanting to repress and hide and be in shame and fear that the subconscious, the unconscious, and the shadow keeps operating through us anyway. And yeah, the other part of working with the archetypes is that, of course, there are many beautiful goddess archetypes that we can call in to support our healing, to support our return to love, and to support our experience, our embodied experience of what true love is actually like. So actually, when I pulled the card on the 2nd day, I happened to pull the card of Guinevere, of unconditional love. So she is one archetype that you could choose to work with. Mary Magdalene would be another. In fact, I was channeling her energy this morning in a one-to-one session with a client. So when Mary Magdalene comes through, or Mother Mary also, it's the most divine and immaculate energy of complete unconditional motherly love that just embraces everything. So we can call in, we can invoke and work with these goddess archetypes and energies as part of our healing path. In the 3rd month, the cycles and stages, well, again, there's often work to do there because of the conditioning that there's something shameful or dirty or wrong about bleeding, about being sexual, about coming, about birthing, about, you know, the grounded, earthy rootedness of what our body does at all our different life stages, right? So the conditioning is not to love that, and so coming home to ourselves, we are asked and invited to love and accept and indeed dive fully and deeply into the initiatory gifts of being a woman in a woman's body. The next, moving on to the theme that we're going to work with tomorrow, the sacred body of woman. So of course, in your physical body, your energetic body, they are aligned and merged, right? So your physical heart, but your energetic heart here behind your sternum and your breasts are directly connected with your heart chakra, right? So the more open your energetic heart, the more sensation in this part of your body. There was a live I did some time ago actually about loving your boobies, which speaks to this. So breast massage, really important for breast health, but also to open up the energy channels here so that there's more sensation. Yeah, connecting the sexual energy from your root and your womb space and drawing this sexual energy up to your heart, also opening this channel of connection between sex and heart, very important. So your sacred body is all of this. And sensation in your breasts has nothing to do with size or shape. Orgasmic nature of your breasts has nothing to do with size, shape or age. I'm 56, I keep saying to everyone, because I want to be an inspiration to you, my breasts are so sensitive and they adore touch and caressing and kissing and sucking, and my lover loves them. They're small, one's a bit bigger than the other. My nipples are a little bit droopy from breastfeeding 2 children, but I love them. And my love pours out of my heart center, and my love pours from my breasts, right? So this is there for us all. It's connected, heart and breast connected. So then moving on, power and sovereignty is the 6th theme, the 6th pillar. How does love infuse into this? Well, super simple. Your yes and your no and your boundaries. So again, this comes back to the conditioning of people pleasing and being nice as a woman. It doesn't mean that we have to become strident and harsh or aggressive or masculine in our way of being, although, you know, we are all a balance of masculine and feminine, and you are unique as you, so no judgment. However, learning to say no and to hold your boundaries is key to your personal power, and that is a loving act. Saying yes to everyone and everything isn't loving if it's inauthentic. 7th theme, 7th month, awakening sexual energy. Well, my experience of sexual energy is also that it is love. Again, there's so much negative conditioning out in the world that distorts our experience and understanding of our sexuality, making it dirty, making it shameful, making it wrong, making us feel ashamed or slutty if we embrace our sensuality. This is all conditioning. There's no truth in that. Your sexuality and your sexual energy are divine. They are immaculate. This energy is immaculate. It's pure. And I experience it in my body as love. A complete river tide of ecstatic, blissful, joyous love that pours through my whole being. It is love. And this energy wishes to make love in the world. And yes, there's that point again of connecting the sexual energy with the heart and flowing energy between these 2 poles. That's what we're here for, to make love, to open to our divine sexuality in all its different flavors and expressions. Meeting the masculine, I already spoke to that, so that's the 8th theme, the 8th month, and again in the re-experiencing of stillness and of our divine masculine pure consciousness, the light, the verticality, the pillar of that light within our own beings. We experience the inner love affair of divine union. So this love that we then experience within ourselves permeates our being, radiates from us. We feel whole, we feel complete. We feel complete. There is nothing lacking in that embodiment. There is no need. Everything is perfect. And that is how it is. So how can we, because I know when we talk about this, it can seem sometimes, it can seem remote, it can seem perhaps a little bit unrelatable, it can seem perhaps too conceptual. So what does it look like to love yourself in the nitty-gritty of life? Well, here are some suggestions for you. Noticing the way that you talk to yourself, like all the time, practicing acute self-awareness and catching yourself, because it's really shocking when we begin to pay attention to our self-talk, how harsh the inner critic can be. And this is very common for women, that, you know, for example, in men, aggression is cast out, projected out towards others, right? In angry words, in physical violence, so it's energy out. With women, a tendency can be that the aggressive energy goes in instead. So it's like self-attack, self-destruction, self-criticism, rather than, you know, they're both equally unhealthy or unhelpful or unloving, but for women it often tends to be that going in. Not forgetting, of course, that you are me. Whatever I say, do and do to you, I am doing to me. And the more you deepen into this understanding and this embodiment, and the more you deepen into true self-love, the more capacity you'll have to love others. It's as simple as that. You can only love and be loved to the extent that you love yourself and know yourself as love. So notice your self-talk, notice your inner critic, and see if you can be aware of whose voice that is, because it's not yours. And every time you notice it, just acknowledge, thank you. That's not true. This is the truth. You may have had a role in the past in terms of trying to protect me or keep me safe, or you think you're coming from a place of love, but this is not the voice of love. Thank you. Now can please leave. And let's replace the negative self-talk with something that's true and real. Something that's true and real, which is based in self-love. First thing. Second thing, just notice where you are allowing your boundaries to be overstepped. So nobody can do anything to you. Get out of the victim mentality. You're responsible, you're an adult. If something isn't feeling comfortable for you, it's up to you to make that clear and assert and express what your needs are and what your boundaries are, with love, with compassion, with love for yourself and for the other. Boundaries. Part of that is your yes and your no. So again, this is how everything interrelates. To assert your boundaries, to assert your yes and no, you need to be fully in touch with your physical body, your sensations and your energy in every moment. If you're not going to know. For many people, there's a numbing out and there's a cutting off and a disconnect that has happened because of years of conditioning and programming. So there's a less acute capacity to know based on the sensory information your body is going. But it's a learned art, it's a skill you cultivate through the daily practice of meditation and embodied awareness. When you're in tune with your body will quite clearly tell you yes and no, and you listen. Again, speaking personally, I have spent so many years overriding my yes and no. Nobody taught me about it. I grew up in a family where my parents were overriding my boundaries all the time, and in a society where externally in the world men were overriding my boundaries all the time. So for me, growing up, that was what was normal, and I had no idea that there was such a thing as my personal boundaries. I had no idea of where I started and they ended. So it took a long time of having experiences of feeling weird and feeling uncomfortable and feeling encroached upon, but not really understanding the roots behind it and what was needed for me to feel better in myself, to feel more comfortable. So I had to really learn this. But boundaries begins with sensorial information in the body and then a clear saying yes and no. So again, I found it very, very hard to say no to anybody out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of punishment, and fear of judgment. Those were my fears, because I wanted to be loved. So there it comes back to the need for love again. I couldn't bear the thought of not being loved and not being part of the group or not being wanted or not being accepted. And so I found it very hard to say no because I was afraid. The more I learned to love myself, the easier the no's came. And the more I said no when I meant it, the better I felt, and the more I loved myself. So it's kind of like this positive cycle. The first few times it felt really awkward and difficult, and I flushed and was scared to say no. But then the more I did it, now it's just second nature. So there are very few occasions. Are there any? I'm wondering. I don't know if there are any occasions where I would actually do or say something I don't want to. That's not selfish. That's love. Self-care. Again, the sacrificing woman, the sacrificing mother, the people pleaser, doesn't put herself first, runs herself ragged, stresses herself out, is completely depleted. But beautiful, your true nature is to be full with joy, to be full with deliciousness, to be full with juiciness, to be full with love. If that is not your current state, then you need to replenish yourself. You need to take the time, you need to do what it takes to fill yourself back up, to fill your cup back up so that you are overflowing. That is love. That is self-love. Self-care. Let's see if I've got anything else on my list here. Giving and receiving is also a part of this dynamic of, it goes right along with the boundaries, with the yes and no, but just notice your balance of give and receive. Only give when you can give. Only give when you can give and want to give. Never, ever give to manipulate, to control, or out of duty, obligation. No. Receive. Allow yourself to receive. It's a two-way street. It has to flow. Open to receive the love that is there. So oftentimes people get so caught up in the busyness of living that they're cut off from source, they're cut off from the divine, they're cut off from the energy that's there. If you sit and just be and open to receive, there's so much love, there's so much light available. Let yourself receive it. Let yourself be replenished, let yourself be inspired, let yourself be healed without having to do anything. It's like the love is there all the time. Listening and honoring, not overriding. I think I spoke to that already, but really learn to listen in to you. It's an art form. Listen in and honor. Honoring you is loving you. Honoring your body. Honoring your energy. Honoring your sacred yoni. Don't let someone in if your yoni's not ready. No, I need time. I'm not ready. I need this. Right? Honor. That is love. Love yourself. Honor yourself. And finally, the final point I guess I've got here is your dedication. Self-love in practice is your dedication to your inner work. It's your dedication to your wholeness. It's your dedication to embracing your scattered aspects. It's your dedication to loving yourself whole. It's your dedication to exploring your shadow. It's your dedication to truth. All of this is part of your daily practice of love. Taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking care of your emotions, taking care of all of those needs, feeding yourself, sustaining yourself, nourishing yourself, filling yourself up. This is all part of the daily practice of self-love. How you speak to yourself, how you hold your boundaries, your yes and your no, your give and your receive. All of this is a practical daily, a daily practice of self-love. I'm just going to check the time. Almost half an hour exactly. That's pretty amazing. Felt like we'd come to the end there. So just bring your hands to your heart center. And breathe fully and deeply into and out of your heart. You can sometimes feel a little bit painful if there's a stuckness or a contraction. So just see if you can breathe a little bit more deeply. It can help to breathe through an open mouth. And just breathe love in. Breathe everything that is not love out. Breathe love in. Breathe everything that is not love out. And one more time, breathe love in. And breathe that what is not love, which is not love. I feel like I'm talking weird. Out. Remember what you are, remember who you are, remember you are love. The world needs your love. So just to say, those of you who've been in touch with me about the Awakening Shakti program, I will be sending the information out to you. Sorry for being a little bit slow. I was taking some time for my self-care over the weekend. If you want the information, be in touch with me. And yeah, tomorrow is Tuesday. Tomorrow the theme is the sacred body of woman. And I'm going to be going live at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning into this group. So once again, thank you for being with me. Your questions, your comments, your insights, your reflections are super welcome. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10. Namaste and much love.